Shandabear here. This one's gonna get a whole lot of weird real quick. Now, we had just discussed in the last video this woman by the name of Rena Paquette. And she claimed to everybody that she knew who killed Sandra Valade. And I believe she claimed she knew who killed Pamela Mason too. And she never really actually said, as to the best of my knowledge, she never really actually said it was Coolidge. But the implication was there. And she was connected to the case, to the Coolidge case. But now, we're not going to talk about the Coolidge case now, because that case is over with. But Miss Paquette was connected to another guy. And the guy's name was Danny Paquette. And I'm going to call this one the dirty little secret of Hooksett, New Hampshire. Now, Danny Paquette, to the men that knew him, they all thought he was a real competent guy, real interesting guy. He could weld, he could fix cars, he could basically do anything at all. But to the women in his life, that was a different story. The women found him really rough to work with and deal with, and he was certainly insulting, and he could be, and I'm trying to be diplomatic for YouTube. He could be very physical at times with the women, and that was a problem. And he had problems with his wives. Really, I think he had 2 wives. And so essentially, what happens one day, and I believe it was on November 9th, 1985. He's working with his friends, but they're working in separate areas, and he was working on a tractor, working on some sort of vehicle or something like this. And there's a lot of noise because they're working as well. And it's a farm, like a family type farm, not like a massive conglomerate type farm, but like a family type farm. And nobody hears anything, but they turn around, his co-workers / friends turn around, they see him. He's laying down. And they thought he passed out from the heat. Now, it was the day after hunting season starts. And they go up to him. And they find he's been shot. And at the time, they couldn't, there was an entry wound and there was an exit wound. So they notify local law enforcement. And local law enforcement, Hooksett PD, in fact, and I believe the state came out too. It was a big case. And they came out and they basically checked it out, and he had been shot. But nobody knew if it was like an errant shot from a hunter, because it was either the day after or the second day after hunting season. And somebody could have shot him. I always question that because, as I recall at that time, the hunting season, Hooksett, New Hampshire was a shotgun-only kind of place. And he was shot with possibly a rifle. See, at the time, they couldn't find the bullet, and they searched for it, too. But what was interesting about this guy was, which really set everything ablaze, so to speak, the whole concept, was Rena Paquette, who knew who Coolidge was. They thought there was a connection to the Coolidge case. And for years and years and years, state and local law enforcement kind of went on that theory. It was even on Unsolved Mysteries. It was on all of those shows. The Paquette case. Danny Paquette. What happened to Danny Paquette? Well, the case went dormant for years and years and years and years. And here comes the dirty little secret. Danny Paquette had been accosting one of his daughters. And the daughter had a boyfriend. And the boyfriend used to like to hunt and fish and all of that. And he got very upset about it. And he went and took his rifle. He got a rifle. I don't know if he got his dad's rifle. He got a rifle anyways. And I believe it was a .270 rifle, but I'm not 100% sure about that. I don't know the caliber, but I think that's what it was. And he went down and he shot him. Now, what was interesting is later on in the case, there was an electric worker, and he was working on the house or whatever, and he found the bullet. It went into an electric cable, one of those large cables, and he found the bullet. And he gave it to law enforcement and all the rest. So they had an idea of what kind of weapon was used at that point. But still, the case was unsolved for a long time. Now, what wasn't reported was that the kid, if anybody at school, everybody knew basically, everybody in the town knew. I mean, that's the oversimplification of it. He would basically, I don't want to say brag about it, but members of his family knew he did it. Kids in school knew he did it. And the reason they knew knew that he did it, is because if somebody threatened them or came up or whatever, or kind of bullied them or whatnot, or he bullied them, he would turn around and tell them that he'd killed people in the past, and he's the real deal. And people would back off. The other kids would back off. And this went on through school. And there were a lot of people that knew this. Now, in the meantime, law enforcement didn't know this. And they were going on all these theories. And one of the theories was that a 22 caliber, 22 long rifle, rimfire. And if you pick up a box of 22 rimfire, it will actually say this on the box. It says you have to be very careful because these bullets can carry up to a mile. And it's not on every brand, but it's on quite a few of them. And anybody who shoots knows that they can. If you get the angle right, if you catch the wind right, if everything, if all the dominoes fall in a row, it can carry that far. It can happen. The reality of the situation is, though, really, you're lucky to get a couple hundred yards, max, really. But, and they went on that theory that possibly someone fired a 22 and it actually went, a mile and killed this guy. That was one of the theories. But everybody in the school knew that this kid was the murderer. So, love is strange, and people fall out of it. So, the daughter, who had been accosted, and this kid broke up. They essentially broke up. And what happened was, Danny Paquette was connected to a woman who worked in the justice system, I believe in the state of New Hampshire. I don't know if she was federal. I don't think she was. But she worked for the justice system anyways. And people have always thought that there was some sort of influence with her where she would divert the attention of law enforcement when they were making a discovery. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I do know they had a family member that was connected to the Justice Department, but whether or not she actually manipulated them, I don't know. Now, the Paquette case came to a head because the daughter essentially turned herself in. And when she did that, the boyfriend turned himself in too. And that's how the Paquette case was solved. It technically had nothing to do with Coolidge, but they thought it did. And that's the story of Danny Paquette and the Paquette case. These cases never are good. They're always weird and bad. when people get murdered, it's usually not because they were nice people. You know, it's rare that they were nice. In the case of Pamela Mason and Sandra Valade, they were probably two nice kids that just wound up in the wrong place, wrong time. And it's sad. And we should pour some out for them. But I don't know if I'd pour some out for Danny Paquette. Yeah. Well, they turned him in anyway. The kids turned themselves in. They weren't kids by that point. And I believe they served their time. I don't know if they're out yet. They might get out, though, sometime soon. In any event, it's the story of Danny Paquette. And with that, if you like stories like this, and I know you do, you must, then like, comment, subscribe. Shandy Bear out.